Next, from Springfield, our one-on-one conversation with Republican gubernatorial candidate Adam Andrzejewski. We'll hear why this businessman wishes to now run the state and how he would attempt to balance the state budget, improve education, and address the pension funding deficit. This runs about 30 minutes. Adam Andrzejewski, a Republican candidate for governor in 2010. Thanks for joining us on the Illinois Channel. We wanted to introduce you. I think a lot of people are probably new to who you are and what your issues are. So let's start off with, again, let's say your name because it took me a little bit of time to say it. And it's Andrzejewski, is that right?
Perfect, Terry, perfect. I think when you grow up with the last name of Andrzejewski, you have to be fairly flexible about these things, that's for sure.
Let's start off just a little bit because, again, people are probably just being introduced to you. Tell us a little bit about your background, where you're from, and are you married? Do you have kids?
I live in Hinsdale with my wife, Carrie, my 3 daughters, Ellie, Molly, and Emma Kate, 4.5, 2.5, and 9 months old, so it's a busy household. I didn't grow up there in Hinsdale, though. I grew up in a small town, Herscher, in Kankakee County. I grew up as the oldest of 7 kids, and I went my entire way in terms of public education was in the Illinois public schools, all the way from kindergarten through Northern Illinois University. I had a good experience with public education. In 1997, then my brother and I, we started a family-owned business out of our apartments, and I had the good fortune to be able to sell my shares of that business 2 years ago. Took early retirement at age 37, and then I did something unique. I started an organization called For the Good of Illinois. The mission of For the Good of Illinois was to bring good government to Illinois, and we actually had a lot of success on that.
Before we get into all the issues of why you're running for governor, tell us what was the business that you had?
It was American Marketing and Publishing, and we published hometown phone books. So we took the big yellow page directory, we called our book the Home Pages, and we would go into a close-knit community rather than publishing a phone book for 45 towns that was 3.5 inches thick, that rivaled in size the phone book of the city of Chicago. We broke down the phone book into hometown phone books. So for Illinois, which was our largest footprint, but also in Indiana and Wisconsin, for nearly 200 towns in these 3 states, we published a nice little directory for these close-knit communities.
Now, having run a business for a number of years, and obviously you must have been successful to retire at a young age. What did that teach you, running a business?
Well, it was some of the most difficult work that I'd ever experienced, and the experiences will stay with me for a lifetime. It was my role within the company was 6,000 times a year to sit face-to-face with a small business owner, to listen, to influence, and to help that small business owner to grow his business. And small business owners are some of the most tough-minded group of people in any state. And it's some of the most gainful work I'll do in my lifetime. There's many days when I still miss that work, but it taught me that money is difficult to make, and small business owners get paid last. And your reputation is on the line every day. Not only was I a small business owner, but in meeting and visiting and helping small business owners to grow their business, I was just immersed in entrepreneurism every single day, every single waking moment.
Did you, in the course of that, did you talk politics with people? I mean, it seems to me in some ways, based upon what you're saying, it was almost in its own way a little bit of a trial run of running for a campaign, going out and meeting people face to face.
Well, I got to hear, like in Illinois, small business owners are 96% of companies. So I got to hear the view from the trenches every single day as I helped them grow their business. I got to hear what was important, what they needed. And oftentimes a small business owner, they just want to be left alone at the end of the day, that if they make $1, they want to be able to enjoy the fruits of their labor. And I believe that, and that was my experience as well. It's very difficult. My brother and I nearly lost our business in the 3rd year of our business because we ran out of money. We couldn't convince a banker to loan on our business. We bounced a check, but we were able to survive. And that's when I realized that public policy makes a big difference in terms of job creation. If we'd have had another dime's worth of taxes, another dime's worth of regulation, we'd have been out of business. Now, 9 years later, we provided employment for 150 employees and their families. I'm really proud of that. But if we'd have lost the business in the 3rd year, that future would have never materialized.
When you were you political before? At what point did you become political? At what point did you think, or had you always thought that someday I may run for office?
Well, if you ask my father, I'm 39 years old right now. He's probably disappointed that I'm not running for president at this point. When I was in second grade and fourth grade, my father, back in 1976 and 1978, he took on George Ryan in Kankakee County. My father ran against George for state representative twice in those years. And I was in the second and the fourth grade.
Now, George was, of course, a Republican. Was your dad a Republican?
My dad was a Democrat, so he took
I didn't know if he challenged him in the primary.
Right. It's been said that the Reagan Revolution missed the Illinois Republican Party because for the last 25 years, every Republican governor has raised taxes or raised fees. But the Reagan Revolution didn't miss my family. We came over in 1980 with Ronald Reagan as he won the White House. But in 76 and 78, my dad did run against George Ryan, and he'll tell you he ran against more than George Ryan. And it was a family affair. I walked in the parades. I went door to door even at a young age. We ran against the entire corrupt political machine in Kankakee County, and sadly, 30 years ago, the people of Kankakee County were not ready to reform Kankakee County. I believe for 2010, we have a limited window here where the people of Illinois are ready to reform Illinois.
And so let's get into then what are some of the primary issues and why did you decide to run for governor? You've never held public office before, right?
That's right. I just noticed an abject lack of leadership here in Illinois. In both parties, the Republicans and the Democrats.
And we should say, of course, we'll have it as a graphic, but you're running as a Republican candidate.
Absolutely, right. I believe in clean, honest, effective, and limited government. So that lends itself to the Republican Party. I believe the primary function of the Republican Party is to protect the taxpayer. I don't believe the other party protects the taxpayer as a priority. So I noticed, in terms of leadership from my party, a lack of leadership. For instance, all of the tax increases and fee increases over the last number of years have come with Republican votes. In the absence of that leadership, I think we need new people, new ideas, and fresh faces, and that's why I decided to run for governor.
Now, why governor? I mean, that's a big first step. What qualifies you to be the governor when you've not held public office before?
It's a fair question. I have success in private enterprise, where I was able to, as we talked about, retire at age 37 years old. Then I started one of the most successful grassroots good government movements in the state of Illinois history. Last year, by training hometown people all across the state of Illinois to ask their local unit of government to post their check register on the government website, we convinced nearly 50 school districts, townships, municipalities, park districts. We posted over $1 billion of local government spending on local government websites, and I was the resource for the first two counties, DuPage and Cook, to post their checkbooks. That's the momentum that I want to bring to Springfield.